Hi, Ralph.
Hey, sorry for the late Zoom link. I'm glad you're on. How's it going?
Very good. How about yourself?
Real good, real good. Yeah, I'm open to suggestions today. This is the Miracles, Magic and Coffee show, and we
Yeah.
do just about anything here, but it's basically about healing yourself and healing the world. And I've been doing a lot with all sorts of entrepreneurs and all sorts of healers and coaches, and so many people trying to do good in the world and trying to bring their stuff to the world. And you and Sharon brought something big to the world, integrated manual therapy. And I thought, I'm open to whatever you want to talk about and share and what you see that's going on in the world and what you think is needed and that sort of thing. And I'll keep checking the Facebook to see what people are asking. What I was kind of thinking was the healers and coaches and the people trying to bring their gifts to the world. There's a lot of fear and anxiety and stuff that can get in the way, and then there's the exchange of money and just your thoughts on, I've asked this to my Qigong master Ming Tong once about money, and he said, yeah, it's one of the most important things that a practitioner can learn is this, like how to work with money. And so that's the direction I kind of thought of, but I'm open to suggestions. Anything what are you feeling today? How are you feeling?
Pretty good. It's a nice warm day here, and I just feel that people are really feeling nuts inside.
They really are, man. They really are. It's getting weird. Yeah.
It feels like we're in a cusp of Mercury in retrograde, so I feel that that's driving quite a few people crazy.
It seems like it's always in Mercury. I hear that all the time, though. It's like
well, it happens 3 times a year for 2 months at a time, so it's almost
so half of the year. Oh my goodness. Oh man. Oh man. Yeah, there's so much stuff coming to light right now. Like there's so much getting uncovered politically and around the world, and oh my goodness, it's like our system's crumbling. Is there a chance for the alternative health stuff now to really shine forth, because a lot of other stuff is getting found out now? There's some interesting things in the news.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in media coverage.
Yeah.
A lot of, I call it double speak, where it's like the promotion that I feel the world is experiencing this pandemic and it's really crazy, but you can't get a truthful answer out of anybody on the side of the puzzle all the time. So
yeah,
but I would just suggest that everybody just, whatever your decisions are, wait another week and a half before you fully go and engage them.
Oh, I love that idea. Oh, we can have, it does seem like things are moving really, really fast and a lot of stuff is coming to light. I think that's a good idea. What are you finding? I mean, I don't want to get us banned or anything, but it's like, even though I have one guy that says you should just always speak your mind, but he gets in Facebook jail all the time. And I'm like, but then nobody can hear you. But I just thought, practitioners of all sorts are doing all sorts of things. What are you seeing as, I don't know if this is the right question, because I don't know if I was going to ask, like, how are you treating people these days? Anything that's going on? I had a really cool success story. I'm going to just start with that, just because it was so cool. You would love this, because when I reach out to you, a lot of times, like, somebody falls in our family, one of the little boys and one of our dudes, and you just tell me, okay, here's where the bone bruises are, and here's where you fix it. And I would and we have such great results. And when I had reached out to you when Jen was pregnant with Baden, and you told me where to go apply the techniques, a lot of what you told me to do was to go fix up bone bruises. And so it seems like that's a big thing, and it can cause all sorts of issues. And I had a really cool example. I won't give real particulars. I think they're going to give me a little video testimonial, though. I got somebody from that I know reached out because their little boy had an injury, and so I said, well, let me just come over and check it out. And I did my orthopedic checking, and it's like, well, yeah, it could be something pretty significant. You might want to go to the ER, not the ER, but the doctor, and see what's going on. And I just said, you want me to see if I can fix this up? And so we worked on a little ligament and worked on stuff, and I kept having him test it, and he couldn't put his foot on the ground. And so it was like, and it hurt. And so then I was like, oh, okay, here's the bone bruise. And I did a bone bruise technique, and he stood up and he put his foot on the ground and he smiled and he started walking. And his mom was like, whoa. And then he's like, can I run? And I'm, no, not yet. So I got a message from them this morning. He's like, yeah, he was running all over the place last night. And he had been down for 24 hours because of an injury. And it was like, is this, how orthopedic is this? And one of the coolest, we have so many cool techniques in integrative manual therapy. Maybe we go start talking about bone bruises, because I told the story of bone bruises, and the way I remember it, in the very first, it might have been the first class I took from you and Sharon. Sharon was saying, yeah, we started finding these things that Sharon was calling bone fractures, and she had a way to fix them with her hands. And then Tom Lowen was like, you can't say you're fixing a bone fracture, you'll get, banned from the world. And she goes, okay, well, we'll call it bone bruises. So she's going along fixing these bone bruises, and then she saw the TV show Friends, and Ross had his hand slammed in the cabinet, and they went to the doctor and x-rayed it, and the doctor said, oh, you got a bone bruise. And so Sharon was like, well, you can't pick it up on an x-ray, it has to be an MRI, but somebody just put it on Friends. So she scoured the internet, and there were starting to be studies about finding bone bruises in knees and ankles, and it was the reason surgeries didn't work sometimes, because it looked like it worked, but the bone bruise is what was keeping the pain. And she had a technique to fix it. And literally that's what I did. And it took all of about 2 minutes max for him to stand up and walk around. Let's talk about, because IMT is so freaking cool.
Right.
Yeah, well, tell me, what do you think?
Let's go back, and you were in our winter school this year, and August 6, 7, and 8 is summer school, and you're invited to come hang out with us again.
Oh, thank you, Tom. You're amazing. Thank you.
So, and this other student named Ed is a physical therapist.
I love Ed. No.
But in 2002, he decided to go rollerblading, and he fell and he fractured his wrist, and he had a fracture called a Colles fracture, which happens in the wrist bones. And he worked next to an orthopedic surgeon. So he walked over there, they x-rayed it, said, you got a fractured wrist. And he then called us up, and the next day he showed up in our office. He drove 2 hours from Boston. He probably got 3 to 4 hours of therapy in that one day, and we treated the bone bruises through the cast, and it felt better. The swelling went down, his pain went down. And the next day, so 48 hours later, he got another x-ray, and it was 6 months healed in the cast. So there are many different belief systems on how you could fix things. And when you do the right energies to it, it can almost fix up immediately in the whole process. So bones are, everybody thinks a bone is like a rock or a piece of dried wood. And that's really not the truth, is that bones are cartilage with extra calcium in them. They're a little bit rigid, but they're not always rigid. And they should have some bendability no matter what age you are and how old you are. And so it's almost like if you had a green stick, from a fresh young tree, and you try to bend it, it doesn't snap off in your hand. So that's what a healthy bone should feel like. And just like in a green stick, if you keep bending it, eventually the bark will start to crack in a few fibers, but it still keeps its shape. And that's what a bone bruise is that there's some of the bone is injured, but not all the bone is injured. But it can cause tremendous pain throughout the whole body by doing that, and it will stay forever until you fix it. So it's one of the tools that we have in IMT that's like one of the main things that I've never found any place else in the world that can do it the way we do it, and it's possibly as fast as we do it.
Yeah, and what I was testing yesterday was an ACL, like the little drawer test, and it felt like, man, there's a laxity here. I'm concerned. Is this thing? And when I did my mapping, I thought it felt like, well, it feels like part of the ligament is torn, but it doesn't feel totally torn. The test though was like, it feels a little lax compared to the other side. And so we're talking, maybe you need to go see a doctor about this thing. And then we fixed the bone bruise, because it felt like here was the bone and here's the ligament, and there was a fracture, a bone bruise around this where it maybe got pulled away a little bit. When we fixed that up, then I went and tested, and the ligament was taut again. And so it's interesting. And then I have a story when Baden, there's a wall out here about 6 feet off the ground, and the kids were playing, and somebody bumped Baden, and he fell, and he landed straight on his feet. Didn't straight on his feet, and they're just like standing there, and then he started to cry, and then he was limping, and I'm like, oh God. So we're working on him, and he's getting a little bit better. And so I reached out to you, and you said, well, he's got a we forgot where you might have hit his hand. Anyway, from what I remember, no, this was me. Never mind. This was when I fell, and
This is the way. All right, and hit your shoulder.
Yeah, the shoulder's getting better, still a little bit, but you had me do a bone bruise on my scaphoid here, and it made this better because I had obviously fallen here too. But it's like a bone bruise. And when you had me working on Jen, we would work on bone bruises all over the body, and then her range of motion would improve in another area. Can you talk a little bit about like this? It were kind of like a web of information or something, and you kind of fix something over here, and the other part of the web fixes like it's not always so. It's an interesting phenomena to fix bone bruises.
So just looking at your shoulder, it's much better than a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
But you have a fracture in your the condyle of the jaw, and a little bit through the disc of the TMJ disc there. It's a little tendon.
Oh, isn't that weird? Like that's so far away from, like, how could that possibly be?
Well, on the other side of it, Ralph, if you think of where the force had to go through, so if you're extending your arm out, right, and it has to pull up, all that energy is going right up through your neck and into your ear, and maybe your jaw was kind of tightening at the same time, so it got torn up in there.
Okay, well, I'm going to work on it. I'll work on it right now while we talk. Isn't that interesting? And we've talked a bit before about how you can see stuff, and
so it's peeling away the layers, and a lot of people that get in car accidents, they've been hit from behind, or they run into somebody in front. They always have an SI joint or a hip pain that always hurts, and you really got to look at how were they holding onto the steering wheel, or how was their foot on the brake.
Yeah,
because sometimes the energy goes right through the foot, through the brake, up into their hip, or if they're holding onto the steering wheel and they're moving, the momentum moving forward. So it could be a little crease in the little finger of your hand that can open up everything else in the body sometimes.
yeah, and the thing is, you don't have. It's nice to know the story, and yet it's like sometimes it's just like it'd be almost impossible to like piece it together logically. But with your mapping and being able to see stuff, you can just find it. And do you tend to see patterns where it's like, oh, when somebody falls, you always look at just to make sure there's nothing in the TMJ, or you always look to make sure there's nothing in the hand, or
well, it's good to bring that up. We can give, because we're coming into summer solstice soon.
Yeah.
Is let me look at the date here while we're talking. And that happens on June 20th this year at 11:30 p.m. East Coast time. So maybe 9 a.m. your time, 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And that is a big transformation of energy. So it's actually because the planets are changing around the sun. So at that point, we have equal time of day and night going on, but we actually have we're coming around the corner, and the pull on the planet starts to be different. So a lot of people trip and fall this month.
Just because there's an energetic, physical energetic pull.
There's a magnet switching, and that sort of changes the magnet in our head. So we're 4 days. Today's the 16th, so we're 4 days away from yippee, that piece. And what we found from all the therapists around the world is that the ears get involved because there's a very sensitive mechanism there called your vestibular system, and it's really sensitive to that movement, and that makes you fall. So we're always looking at making sure our ears are really opened up, and also the artery that supports them, which is called the middle cerebral artery in the head. So when I hear tripping and falling, especially during this week and next week, it's all about worrying about the solstice, and it happens at the four corners. So the winter and summer solstice, and the equinoxes, the fall and spring equinox, are other two pivotal parts that people seem to have dizziness and falling.
So it's nice to like get the body fixed up in there, just so it's optimized for these different transitions. Yeah.
So I just recalling, because I was bringing this up to my students last year, and then my mother, who was 89 then,
I remember
she broke her foot and she had to have a cast on last year at this time. And so, and it was about this tripping and falling. And again, COVID made it harder to get her treated. So, but just be aware, if you're stumbling, you may want to just put your hand on the top of your head and another hand on your heart to help balance that out a little bit more.
Yeah, that's good. We'll energetically put a hand on everybody's head and their heart and give them a little support there. That's cool. Yeah, the body, everything is so, it's just so much more amazing than you could ever imagine.
So I think, why don't you try your arm now? So.
Oh, that's a lot better. Yeah, now it's like a little bit of something here, but it's way better. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you, Tom.
Okay. You're welcome.
Yeah. I tend to douse from that greater trochanter spot for bone bruises. Any for the IMTers out there, what's the best way to learn how to like find the primary bone bruise? Because the thing is to find the primary one, right? Like the most important one. But do you have a way to kind of like guide people that some of them, this might be way over everybody's head. You know, we can, for an IMT, we can scan the body, we can see where all the bone issues are, and then we can test between all of them. And you can just go, oh, this is the primary one. Is it just a matter of just keeping on getting those skills of checking all the bones and then testing between them and finding it, and you just start to get it in your system of how to find, oh, here it is. I mean, and sometimes I go right to it and go, well, that's where I see it. Like it's where I saw it in that little boy yesterday. Is it a matter of like somebody else is useful, like you seeing it in me, even though I'm a practitioner? Or any thoughts about like honing your skills of finding the primary area to work in?
Well, I feel that the Connecticut School of Integrated Manual Therapy takes anybody that wants to heal themselves and teaches them how to become a practitioner. But
highly recommend that.
Right. So what I try to do is help people relearn their intuition better.
Yeah.
So, and the other piece is, if you don't know what you don't know, how do you know to look for it?
Yeah, that is the truth, man. Yeah, if you don't, I had a client years ago who came to see me from a state, not from Washington, came in to see me, and she was going to stay for a month, and she did, and come see me once a week. And she had a car wreck that wasn't, still had headaches, neck pain, back pain, 2 years, and wasn't getting any better. So she her therapist had somehow found me and said, oh, you're going to Bellingham anyway, go see Ralph. So she came in to see me, and I did my mapping, and it was sagittal plane, and it was grief and sadness in her lungs. And I'm like, I didn't ask her about it. I just pulled out the lung book and did the blueprints for letting go of all that grief and sadness and stuff. And we rechecked her, and her neck was better and her back was better. And she came back the next week and said, this is actually a lot better. What's going on? So I told her that. And I said, no worries, we'll just keep working on the lungs and fix this up. And she got better. And on her last visit, third visit, fourth visit, she was out of pain, and she told me what had happened. And I won't go into details, but she had lost some very important people in her life right before that. And she told me, I think the reason I had the car wreck and came to see you was to let go of this grief. And so I checked in with her 6 months later, and she was doing really, really well. And so can you talk a little bit about like there's a hierarchy of protection, like our bodies are doing stuff for really good reasons, and it'll protect you from a bone that's injured and cause, bone here that affects my shoulder. it'll protect you from some of this non-physical stuff at a very high level.
Yep. Well, some say that accidents are either a 2x4 from God to wake you up across your forehead when you're not.
He was a carpenter, right? Jesus was a carpenter, yeah.
Or it's a transference of energy from the universe. So there's always something important. And speaking of that, this week I've had 3 or 4 clients coming in and saying, okay, I don't, this pain I feel is a new lesson, and when I get through it, I'll be a different person from that process.
Yeah, that's so true.
So going back to the statement, you don't know what you don't know. And that's one of the things is people want to see this over the internet. But, as you took classes, you actually experienced the hands-on phenomenon and you felt the changes. Because if you don't know what an arterial release feels like, you really can't recognize it or even appreciate the words.
Yeah,
it's like
a little buzzing or a little like wave action, or you'll call it some energetic thing. Yeah.
It's almost like going back to where they, before there was the cars, Mr. Ford was producing cars, and now we're having, drones that fly packages back and forth with us. How does that, from that person that just had horse and buggy, how could they even know how to get to where they are? Type of thing.
Yeah.
But some state that, advanced technology and magic are indiscriminable from each other, because they really look almost.
Yeah, if we didn't know what a cell phone was, if it was dropped in our lap 20 years ago, we would be like, what? But yeah.
To talk about these phenomena and have great releases with them is just a fantastic piece.
Yeah, and the hands-on aspect is it's there's something about that. There's something about that, like energetic stuff like I do and you do is super useful, and it's also useful to put your hands on somebody. It's like we are physical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So contact, human touch, I still feel, some healers are saying that we just looked at it, we did it. And for some population, that can be totally true. And I know you, Ralph, you explored some stuff, but you're coming back to do some hands-on stuff at the same time.
It's all useful. Yeah, I'm always looking for what's the result, like without being tied down to one thing. And it's why one of my interests now is helping the healers and the coaches and other entrepreneurs do well in their business, because I'm finding that a lot of I had a couple of people pass away this year, and great healers with great skills, and hardly anybody saw them. And they would say stuff like, well, the work sells itself. And it's like, it's not selling, you don't have any clients. It's like, so it's like that whole aspect of like learning how to talk to somebody that can transform somebody and get them to realize that they can be well. And then they have a chance. And then they can pay an entrepreneur, a healer money, and the healer can do even more good. There's something about money that's there's something really useful about figuring that part out for the healers, because I run into a lot of healers that have wonderful skills that really, really, really want to have a big life and do good in the world, and they just don't have very many clients. It's kind of an interesting thing. So this deep stuff that you and I work on with the manual therapy and with the energetic stuff and with this certain way of going inside and finding where that block is, the spiritual stuff, there's a way to clear that stuff, because right now there's so many people that need help, and there's so many people that have studied all sorts of stuff, and I think we're at a point when some of these other systems are crumbling, and it's important for us to get our work out to the world and help people. And you and Sharon figured out that stuff. I think it just seems to happen for you guys with the way you set things up all over the world, and clinics all over the world. And I could go work in LA and San Francisco and Connecticut and just follow you guys around. And anything you want to say to the healers out there that that want to do something big? And I really recommend everybody, reach out to Tom, imtwellnesscenter.com. And if this kind of therapy is something that makes you go, I want to learn that, just reach out. There's lots of ways to interact with Tom on that. But what do you think about the healing and money?
Well, we have to figure out that release of being worthy of receiving money is a lot of people's problem with that too. And I know we've both worked on that for ourselves to make it more acceptable into that piece. But yeah, there's a lot of gifts out there that, and it seems like the world's emerging where new concepts are a little bit more acceptable and kind.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel it. There's something happening, and you can even see it in some of the news. It's not all being reported, but it's being reported it's starting to come out now that a lot of the old stuff is being uncovered, like, ooh, that is not as useful as some of the stuff that we might have. Some of our, some healers might have this like, well, I'm just this kind of healer. I'm not a, this kind of advanced medical-ish person. But yeah, there's stuff emerging. It used to be where all sorts of different healing methods were out there in big ways and respected and used, and then that went away, and they've always been under the surface, and some people found them. It seems like something's coming up to me.
Yeah, it's a little, and this is about, we started the conversation with murky going crazy, but it's a nice reflection inside. I would say this is the time to flex and write down your plans, and then maybe 2 weeks from now start to take action on them.
That's awesome. You know what it feels like? You know how like when we feel little motilities, little rhythms in the body, and you just resist them for a microsecond, just to like you guys talk about like you resist it so that the body has to kind of go, oh, do I want to do this? And so if it's a good rhythm, it does it more, and if it's a rhythm that's not as useful, it lets it go. And you do these little micro resistances. Maybe the Mercury retrograde is a little resistance to like
big resistance.
Oh,
a lot of people's cell phones are breaking and computers are breaking. Another way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's always good to talk with you, Tom. There's like so much coming up. I feel something is coming. It's good. I'm glad you're on the planet. I'm glad I'm on the planet, and we're going to keep doing what we do.
I'll see you on the other side of the solstice. How about that?
Okay, that sounds good, Tom. So good to see you. So imtwellnesscenter.com to meet up with Tom, and you can find me on a bunch of sites. I'll figure out which one to send you right now. Tom, so good to see you.
All right, Ralph, have a good day.
Have a good one. Okay, you guys. So yeah, so we're all about healing ourselves and healing the world. That was Tom Giammatteo, one of my longtime friends and colleagues and teachers and mentors. And yeah, reach out to me if you have something that's not working well in your life, physical stuff, other stuff. If you have a gift to bring the world, but there's some inner stuff in the way, let me know. Because what I found is your body, your being is doing the best it can do. And what we see when we see a problem is you're protecting yourself from something. And it could be physical, it could be mental, it could be emotional, it could be spiritual, it could be something else from the past you're protecting yourself from. There's a way to find it, and there's a way to help you clear it out, fix it up, and help you do what you want to do in the world. So reach out to me. I'll give you, which one do I want to give you? I think I'm going to give you this one, ralphhavens.com/breakthrough. ralphhavens.com/breakthrough. There's a way to contact me through that. And let's get out there and heal yourself and heal the world. All right, you guys.